We're Jimmy and Johnny Lewis, and we are the two old farts traveling. Sometimes we're traveling, sometimes we're just old farts.
All the complex issues came down to that. It was a matter of control the future, to advance religion, freedom, and love. The stakes were rising. The inefficiency of the
Opposition is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world.
red dots. We stand on it. We must be true to the 35,000 Pennsylvanians who have died for our cause.
You will choose a direct king. At the end of the day, the Confederates had won fighting, but Union forces still held Gettysburg. There were guns by 16,000 but the fiercest fight in American history was and concentrate on the Union Army, and at the terrain, a series of ridges and hills who provided good defensive positions. He deployed outposts and vehicles, troops on the right, north, east, and west of town, and sent an intelligence report. They remained defensively and hoped to hold it until reinforcements arrived. They hold just like beneath. At 10:15 a.m., Major General John Reynolds rides onto the field just ahead of a division of the 1st Corps to force the battle here, west of town, in order to maintain control of the road. Within minutes, Reynolds is dead. Through another. The Union forces, and it's not because the flag was fighting for long after flying all that. There are fresh military participation that had to have applied. Union officers infiltrated against the small force of Union civilians to attack Soviet forces the day before.
So that's when we got them to the museum collection. And if you have any questions on anything in the museum, just ask. Enjoy the rest of your visit.
Union soldiers retreated from Gettysburg.
The Confederates close ranks as they go, stopping under the cover of lower ground to reform their lines and march again.
Johnston's Army of Tennessee, about 60,000 strong, repeatedly stalled Sherman's advance at Resaca, New Hope Church, Pickett's Mill, Kennesaw Mountain, and then fell back. Finally, in early July, Sherman found a way around Johnston's flank and forced the Confederates to withdraw behind the Chattahoochee River, the last defensive line before Atlanta. In mid-July, Sherman's army reached the outskirts of Atlanta. Confederate President Jefferson Davis replaced Johnston with General John Bell Hood, and Hood promptly attacked Sherman's positions outside the city, but failed to drive off the Union forces. On September 1st, with Sherman's army closing in, the Confederate troops evacuated the city. The next day, Sherman telegraphed Washington, "Atlanta is ours, and fairly won." As Sherman laid siege to Atlanta, Rear Admiral David Farragut led a Union naval force toward one of the Confederacy's last open ports, Mobile, Alabama. Forts, obstructions, and underwater mines guarded the entrance to the harbor. But on August 5th, Farragut's fleet ran the Confederate gauntlet, entered Mobile Bay, and closed the port. Hoping to shift the balance of the war in the east, Lee dispatched 14,000 men under General Jubal Early to the Shenandoah Valley in June. Grant countered with General Philip Sheridan and nearly 40,000 Union troops. In the battles of Winchester and Cedar Creek, Sheridan and his troops drove the Confederates from the valley. The Union victories at Atlanta and the Shenandoah Valley boosted Northern morale and helped Abraham Lincoln win the November 1864 presidential election. After Atlanta fell, Hood led his battered army north and nearly destroyed it in assaults on Union positions near Franklin and Nashville, Tennessee. Sherman headed southeast out of Atlanta on November 14th with 60,000 of his most experienced soldiers. His goal was to end the Confederacy's ability to wage war, so his troops lived off the land and destroyed everything that might aid the war effort. On December 21st, he reached the sea and captured Savannah, Georgia. Then in January, Sherman turned his army north toward Columbia, South Carolina, brushed aside much smaller Confederate forces, and brought the war to the Carolinas. Grant spent the late summer, fall, and winter of 1864 probing the Confederate lines around Petersburg and Richmond, Virginia. Lee managed to repel the Union thrusts, but by March 1865, the Confederate situation was growing desperate. Lee believed his best hope was to move west and unite with the remnants of the Army of Tennessee. He never got the chance. On April 2nd, a general Union assault broke the Confederate lines, and Lee had little choice but to evacuate Petersburg and Richmond. The next day, Union forces marched into the Confederate capital. Lee's army staggered west in hopes of linking up with other units or reaching the security of the Appalachian Mountains. Grant's troops intercepted rations and supplies on their way to Lee's men, and then cut off the Confederates' escape at Appomattox. His army reduced to about 30,000 men, many of them starving. Lee had no choice but to surrender. On April 9th, he met Grant in the village of Appomattox Courthouse and surrendered the Army of Northern Virginia. With the news of Lee's surrender, Confederate morale and resistance collapsed. On April 18th, Joe Johnston surrendered the Army of Tennessee to Sherman near Durham Station, North Carolina. This left General Kirby Smith's Army of the Trans-Mississippi as the last Confederate force of importance. On May 26, Smith ordered his men to lay down their arms, and the Civil War was over.
150-something years ago, this was nothing but heavy fighting, and now there's nothing but blueberry bushes. That's the Pennsylvania Memorial.
This
is where Longstreet's forces were. And of course, all these monuments are for the Union troops that were brought here. Massachusetts, Vermont, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, New York, everybody under the sun. But out there across those fields were the rebels. In far greater numbers and doing a lot more damage. They just couldn't keep it up. Clumps of trees right there. It's not the same one as the descendants of those trees, but that was the one of the landmarks of this battle. In Pickett's charge, General Pickett sent his men from that direction toward this camera. There are no Confederate memorials here. Only Union memorials or markers saying this is where we were. So unfortunately here you can see that, or unfortunately for the Southerners, you can see that the Yankees held the high ground. This was the one battle Union General George Meade said, "Oh, thank God," because he was deathly afraid that Pickett's charge would overrun the Union soldiers. Somewhere out there in that direction was Garnett's brigade. Colonel Garnett was the one under whom Jimmy's great uncle Robert E. Allen served as a lieutenant, second lieutenant up to a captain. So by the time of the Battle of Gettysburg, he was a captain. He led his men across this field, headed for the Union lines.